Inside the Birds is back. What's going on, everybody? It's Geoff, Mosher, and Adam Caplan. This is our tape review breakdown of the Eagles' 33-22 loss to the Las Vegas Raiders on Sunday. And this is going to kind of be a comprehensive pod. We're going to break down the tape, obviously, with the help of our sources, but also there's been a couple of transactions over the last 24, 48 hours that we'll get into as well. And of course, the coordinators have spoken, and we need to talk about what was said and not said in the press conferences. I want to start out by relaying a funny story to our listeners, Adam, and I didn't even tell you about this, but you're a part of it. So I called you Tuesday after the coordinators' press conferences, after I got back, after I'd watched some all 22 tape, and you and I were just talking, and I realized after I hung up with you that I think I was yelling at you. Not at you. I was like yelling and cursing at times during the conversation. And that's how, I guess, like, we're not, like we always say, we're not fans. We're objective. But when you watch something that's just bad and wrong and rotten to the core, you get frustrated. Watching the all 22, actually, usually it gives you clarity. It gives you answers. As Greg Cosell always says, the tape doesn't lie. But watching the all 22 tape gave me more questions, not about what happened on Sunday, but how it led to that, why players are playing in certain positions that aren't catering to their strengths. And I laughed when I hung up with you because I'm like, man, I just had a conversation with Adam, and I must have just cursed everything, questioned everything, yelled unnecessarily. I'm sure some of our fans or listeners would like that. They like when we kind of get all enraged and everything like that. But
they love when I was cursing a year ago, and I've confirmed that.
Exactly. But no, that really just goes to show the level of frustration that someone can have in this.
Right, and we're just guys who gather information, and it's just painful. I mean, it's rare that you could watch TV, right? And we said some things Monday morning, where we go, okay, here's the early word, or here's what we think we saw.
Right.
Then if this is one of the few times this year that exactly what we saw watching the game was 75 to 100% what the tape show from the people we spoke with. So,
right.
It's there's some stuff that's troubling. We'll talk about the coordinators. I was very glad the Philly media, including yourself, by the way, did a very good job of grilling Jonathan Gannon. I thought you guys did a really good job of asking the right questions. There's a lot of information out there now because of you're able to watch all 22.
Mm-hmm.
And also, these reporters know people with the Eagles or people around the league. You could ask questions and get stuff confirmed. Did we think what we saw, was that really correct? And we'll certainly talk about that. And there's just it's a situation now that I don't want to say it's a crisis, because this is a new staff, but you're 7 games in, and I will continue to say this. This team is severely underachieving. It's not a playoff team just by roster, but this is not if this team finishes with 4 wins, something's really bad here, and there's something really, really wrong if this happens. They only have 2 wins after 7 games, but they still have 10 games left. If they only win 2 more, then this would be beyond embarrassing.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. And you know that anyone who listened to our show on Monday night on The Fanatic knows that, and our podcast that came out Monday morning, that I've kind of had a difficult time trying to divide and assign the culpability, whether it's personnel, whether it's coaching scheme, whether it's front office for not matching the players that they need in the offseason. And I've just come to the decision that everybody shares a piece of it. It's all problematic, but I step back and I look, and I'll repeat what I said on the show with you. The defense, as bad as it played on Sunday, right? It was never that bad under Jim Schwartz, never that soft, never that, and it's never been this porous against the run. And a lot of these players are played in that Schwartz system, right? I mean, so it's not like these guys are completely all terrible football players. They have succeeded to some degree, some Pro Bowlers, some just being able to start for Jim. And not that Jim had the greatest defense in the world last year or the year before, but it was one that didn't go out there and embarrass itself the way it did against Las Vegas and the way it has at times against Kansas City and Kansas City and Tampa Bay, and even earlier against the Cowboys. So there's a troubling trend here. And I agree with you. It's up to Jonathan Gannon to fix it. And he doubled down. He said, and we'll talk about it a little more, but he said, I can win with these players. I have the support. My voice was heard about the players that I needed. So then it's up to exactly. You hold the man to his word, and we'll get into that. All right, real quick for paper, just our normal business. Q&A will drop Thursday, 6 a.m. I know that they and especially them as former players, very passionate about some of the things that have gone on not
fire.
just against the Raiders, but all year. You can't miss that.
I got to tell you, it starts with my Thursday because I get up between 5:30 and 6 a.m. Eastern every day. And it gets me started. Like I listen to music when I work, but there's sometimes I need to I just need an impetus to get me fired up about something, because music doesn't really unless I'm getting ready for a tennis match where I want the music loud, like AC/DC, whatever it is. Jason and Q sometimes get so fired up, particularly Jason, that I start laughing. I'm like, I stop what I'm doing and I just sit back in my chair, like here, because this is my little TV studio, and I do my work out of here too sometimes. So I'll listen and I'll start laughing. I'm like, gosh, I wish we were together with them in person, just to see you can see their faces, right? But unless you're in front of someone, you can't quite convey it enough. Like you get 75% of it on screen on YouTube. But like we do on Sunday with Cosell and Avant on our Sunday show. But that's a preview. That's not a review. Can you imagine we did a review show with everybody, even Greg? We're planning on doing a mid-season show in a couple weeks, but it's getting harder and harder for all of us, all four of us, to continue to see the same things. I know this is a rookie staff. I get it. These are smart coaches. They're getting in their own way. Like there's certain things you can do with lesser talent. You certainly try to help them. What you're trying to shoehorn your scheme in, and yes, it's a defensive scheme. There's no question it's been a scheme from day one. The offense is a grab bag, but defensively, there's certainly a scheme here. Tally implements the players and asks them what to do. That's not working right now.
Yeah, you're right. I have found that some of the best coaches sometimes had to learn the hard way because they were so stubborn in their principles, and you're hearing it now, doubling down, and double down on what? Because what you might be preaching some great philosophies, but you're not executing those philosophies on game day. So you're really just saying, I'm going to double down on the stuff that nobody's listening to me say, or nobody's able to translate onto the football field. So at some point, and I think that they've reached that point here, that it's not just, you got to do something different. They definitely have to try a different strategy, and they're hopefully that's happened, that they've learned the hard way and they can kind of pick it up here over the last 10 games. Because if not, it's going to be long and it's going to be arduous. As you just said, trying to find new topics to talk about on the pregame show are going to be difficult, but we will still do the pregame show. So 10 to 12, you, me, Greg Cosell, and Jason Avant on Sunday at 10 a.m.
We got the views are almost up to 10,000 just on Twitter. I just happened to see that's the most of the year. It's hard to figure out why certain things get more traffic, but that Raider game, we know that, boy, there were a lot of Eagle fans there. I feel bad for because when they were up 7-0, they had a really cool drive, which we'll get into. If I had been there, I'd be like, wow, we've been asking for this all year and they're doing it. We'll get into what that was, but it was just funny. They probably were all giddy, and then, oh boy, 30 straight by the Raiders.
Oh boy is right. All right, Adam, let's get into the pod here. By the way, I did write a piece that kind of summarizes my feelings on what we just talked about on InsideTheBirds.com. So everybody, please subscribe to InsideTheBirds.com. It's free. Get your RSS so that the stories come to your reader every morning. Adam had his power rankings out. I love your power rankings because you give some pretty cool summaries as to why teams are moving up and down.
Bengals.
The Bengals are on the rise.
I can't believe it. I got that one wrong. I'll admit it. I'm kind of happy that there's you want to talk about long-suffering fans, folks.
Oh, yeah.
They've been terrible prior to the season. They've been really bad under Zach Taylor. Their receiver core is so good, and Joe Burrow is so good. Their line is bad. It's still a bottom 5 to 7, but he gets rid of it quickly.
Yep.
And the guy's a high-level quarterback, but he's making C.J. Uzomah, their tight end, who, if you play fantasy, you're like, who is this guy?
I know.
I mean, they're playing great. Their defense is better. And
Jamar Chase,
one thing.
Stud.
What's that?
Jamar Chase is a stud.
So much for those reports that he was struggling in training camp. But one thing I do want to mention with the Bengals and Eagles connected in a way. Lou Anaromo, who's their defensive coordinator, he really struggled his first couple of years to the point where people thought he should have been fired because they weren't getting the defense and they were really bad. And he was like at least their fourth choice. Zach Taylor, a bunch of choices turned the job down. And I talked to agents saying that the players were complaining about the scheme, and it's amazing. They have better football players, and they finally got it. And they are a legit playoff team. They embarrassed the Ravens in Baltimore. So you know what? I'm not making excuses for Jonathan Gannon because I crushed them. This is in the 4 years we've done this show. That's probably the most I've gone after a coach, and I'm not proud of it. But our job is to bring fire and brimstone when it's warranted, and we're not gonna embellish stuff. He's not doing a very good job right now, and he knows it because the players are going after him publicly. Particularly Cox, it's only going to get worse if he doesn't adjust.
No doubt about it. And same thing with Nick Sirianni. He's got to fix his mess on offense as well. So interesting, Monday night, just as we go on air for our show, the Eagles make a trade, right? So we get to talk about it as it happened live and in the flesh. And Joe Flacco gets traded to the Jets where he was last year. So he's gone. Minshew is now the number 2 quarterback. They had signed or claimed we couldn't figure out why they were claiming a 4th quarterback off waivers before that, which was Reed Stinnett from the Miami Dolphins. So the quarterback factory continues to churn. And in comes Reed Stinnett. And of course, they released their long snapper to make room for him.
By the way, I thought it was Stinnett. It's actually Sinnett.
Oh, Sinnett. My fault. Not Kelly Stinnett, the former Major League Baseball player, but Reed.
Was he a catcher, Kelly Stinnett?
He was a catcher. He played for the Blue Jays and the Mets and some other team.
Mets.
Yeah. Nice. And then, of course, so they released Rich Lovato, their long snapper. They're playing the roster tango thing. Then they wind up bringing back once they trade Flacco. So they got, a conditional
Oh, here's why.
6th-round pick, right? Go ahead.
Right. Here's why. You just mentioned the roster tango. Technically, the Reed Sinnett claim was done at 4 p.m. Eastern. They had to release someone at the same time to clear space. So the Flacco trade cannot be executed until after 4 p.m. Eastern. It didn't show up until Tuesday.
Okay.
The Sinnett transaction went in Monday officially. From a personal, it's called a personnel notice. The NFL, all NFL teams, some reporters like myself are able to see it. And the Sinnett claim was done officially on Monday. So what they did is they knew Lovato's not going anywhere. They could just pick any player they want. And they had it worked out with the agent. He's back. Flacco transaction went on Tuesday. It's the Buccaneers 6th-round pick for next year. The conditions, it's going to be very hard for it to be, the way it's explained to me is it's going to be very hard for it to be a 5th-round pick, which would be the Jets' 5th-round pick, I believe.
Right.
I'm assuming. I just know that the 6th-round pick in 22 is the Bucs right now, and then the 5th would be the Jets. And then the big story, obviously, is Gardner Minshew, who fans have been calling for the last couple of weeks in social media.
So he's the number 2 now.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely. So that's 11. I believe I'm correct. 11 total draft picks that the Eagles will have in 2022.
3 in the top 11, right? 3 in the top, something like that.
If the season ended today, 3 in the, I don't think it's going to end up that way. 2 in the top 11.
Oh, 2 in the top 11. Yeah.
Colts I don't know about the Colts pick. We'll see because they're
playing well right now.
They're playing well. Their schedule lightens up a little bit, and I think that they'll be closer to 500 or a few games. I don't think they're going to be a top 10 picking type team.
No, they'll be somewhere around 15 or 16 now. They play the Titans in a rematch in Indy.
Yep.
So that'll be a fun game. I look forward to that game. But then, Lovato's was back on Tuesday, and the Michael Jacquet era is over for now. They cut him. They signed Jared Maiden, who was an undrafted free agent for the Niners last year. He only played in 2 games on specials. I was told that he could play free and strong safety, up or back. He's got really good size. He does have ball skills. He's not a great athlete, but he's a smart kid. He played at Alabama. Yet another Alabama player, by the way. All of a sudden,
that's right.
What is going on? All of a sudden.
Really helping their record, by the way.
It is funny.
They were almost better without the Alabama players. No, I kid.
A decade and a half without Alabama players, and all of a sudden they're bringing Alabama players in. Who knew?
There you go. Who would have thought? So the practice squad protections are so you as you would expect. Jordan Howard protected. John Hightower protected again. Richard Rodgers.
What do you make
protected.
of that? What do you make of John Hightower being protected just about all but 1 week? I think.
Yeah, I think it's really interesting. I think that well, let's see. I don't know. Maybe there's going to be a move at wide receiver in the next week or two. I mean, I don't think this 53 is going to look a whole. I think there's going to be changes to it, especially the more they lose. So,
yeah, I do.
Give guys some playing time. Maybe
that'll come. By the way, that'll come on Friday morning show. We've got a list of players. We have some things we're hearing about potential interest. So we'll drop some stuff Friday morning at 6 a.m. Eastern, because it's amazing. The urgency does not happen till Monday, the day before the trade deadline, which is Tuesday, the 2nd at 4 p.m. Eastern. Mm-hmm. We've seen a couple minor moves. Obviously, the Flacco move was more Jets generated. Oh, I should add, Mike White, who's was the backup, is really not very good. I'm trying to be as kind as I can. They had to do something. Mike White was a kid that I saw. He's out of Western Kentucky. I believe it was either at the Senior Bowl of 19 or the East-West Shrine. I don't remember. He's a big kid who's got some issues with mechanics. He's a little bit older. He or 18 was it? Whatever it was. He was with Dallas, the Jets, and he's been on and off the roster. He can't be their quarterback. So they brought in Flacco. By the way, Flacco visited before he signed with the Eagles. Actually had a visit with the Jets coaches, so they know him. So he goes back there. But just getting back to the receiver situation, I just think it's interesting. Hightower, if you remember, was given an incredible chance last season early. Remember when with Jeffrey being hurt and Jackson being hurt, and he played a lot. He just dropped the ball. He just was sloppy, wasn't catching it well. And then, he kind of fell out of favor. Now he's been given another chance to the point where you make an interesting note here. We know the kid can run. They have speed here. J.J. Arcega-Whiteside doesn't run all that well. Now he does play specials. And did you see him? I texted you, remember, in like the first quarter, I'm like, wait a minute, what is Arcega-Whiteside doing out there? Oh, blocking.
Yes, he's blocking, right?
Yeah.
And he does that well. Interestingly, he's sort of like, well, we'll talk about what they did offensively, but he almost was like a third tight end in some spots. I just think that Hightower is a guy that they want to develop more and give time to, and think that there's a future with him. And especially since they have uncertainty at that 4 and 5 spots at wide receiver. So I consider him like their 54th player. And that's how they do the roster tango. They keep him on the practice squad and protect him every week to make sure that he doesn't get away. So, all right. As for injuries, we know Miles Sanders. I actually saw him walking out of the complex in a boot, which we know because he has the ankle injury. But he was actually walking really well for wearing a boot. Sometimes if you have a real major high ankle sprain and you're in a boot, you're on crutches still, or you're on the some people are on the scooter. He was walking normally like someone who has a boot on. So I would say that that's probably a decent time. I'm not a doctor or anything, but I know he wasn't struggling. Let's just say that. He wasn't on crutches and he wasn't limping.
The good thing about what Nick Sirianni said, though he said he's week to week, he said, then he followed up saying it would be stretched to play this week. I would expect him to miss at least 2 weeks. With an ankle sprain and you're a running back and it's bad enough you're going to miss a game, and being that he was carted off, I watched the video for the coach's tape. You could see it wasn't super low on his ankle, unfortunately. I'm not saying it's a high ankle sprain, but it didn't look like it was a basketball sprain where he's just going to miss a week. So we know he's not playing this week. I wouldn't expect him to play the week after. It would be a pleasant surprise if you have Sanders on your fantasy team. But right now it's going to be Boston Scott game 1. I would expect Jordan Howard by the deadline at 4 p.m. Eastern on Saturday to be added. And then that way, because you have to have 3 running backs. You can't go in with 2. Although some teams do, they go in with 2 tight ends. We've seen that before. The Eagles have done it. Other teams have done it, but you can't do it with running backs. And I would expect to be a committee. I don't expect one guy to get the ball more than the other. I do expect Gainwell's role to grow, particularly in the passing game. He had the little over route for the touchdown. It was perfectly executed. But Boston Scott, man, it's just so puzzling to me. We know we had heard in the spring he didn't set the world on fire. Like he was going to have to earn his roster spot. He had a very good camp. And then we get to the regular season. I'm like, okay, other than special teams, what the hell?
Yeah.
Get on the field for
Yeah.
offense.
Like I almost consider John Hightower more on the 54 or 53, if you want to what it is, than
Sure.
Boston Scott.
For offense. Yeah.
Yeah. Even though he's not elevated, but he just basically collects dust on the bench until they get an injury. So I guess the dreaded RBBC is back. Although some people will be happy about that because they always think of the Eagles Super Bowl title as an RBBC type of team, and but this is more of out of necessity. I wonder if who's going to get the most carries, which means like 4.
Oh, the 3?
Like I don't know that Jordan Howard is suddenly just going to come up and get the feature back. I think Scott and Gainwell are still going to be featured.
Here's another note. We have Howard lost a bunch of weight. He had a very good training camp, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still question whether he's a fit for this kind of offense. In fact, I don't think he really is. I thought he's brought back his insurance policy, and by them cutting him, you could say that it was. But we know how this front office has always liked him. High character guy.
Mm-hmm.
He kind of rebounded really well to have a good camp, so he's back. Of the two younger backs, Scott and Gainwell, Scott to me is more stout for a running back. Like he hit it up in there. We know he's got versatility. So to answer your question, we have nobody knows this. The coaches will figure this out. I would expect Scott to have more carries than the other two guys. But also, when you have a running back by committee, if one guy looks better than the other guys, whoever that could be, could get more carries than the other guys. But I do expect Gainwell to play a healthy role, to touch the ball a lot. We know how much the staff likes him now. Sometimes we want to pull our hair out with the grab bagginess of the way that they rotate these guys. Sometimes it's like they don't have any feel for it.
Right.
With Sanders. By the way, it's a shame Sanders got hurt. He looked great in that game.
It's just it was so apropos. I mean, they finally start running and then he gets hurt.
On a screen, I think.
I was on a screen.
Yeah.
On a screen.
Anyway.
All right. As for safeties, we have to figure out, we'll know more Wednesday and then later in the week how Kevon Wallace and Anthony Harris are progressing. Wallace is still coming back. He's in the practice window from the separated shoulder. Anthony Harris has both hands injuries and a groin that kept him out of the game against the Raiders. So hopefully he's recovered from, I don't know, 2 of the 3 or 1 of the. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what goes on.
I don't know any.
Never seen a guy with both hands injured.
Exactly. I don't know. Yeah, but there's a joke in there somewhere, but hopefully he's going to be okay. So it's kind of a weird deal. Marcus Epps, as we expected, was the guy who played there last week. So he played every single snap.
Yes,
that's what happens. That's what happens when you don't have enough safeties. So that's what they did.
Correct. All right, let's get into some of the coordinator stuff. First, we've been telling you about taking advantage of your sportsbook using BetQL. It's the only app you'll need to make smart bets. Their computer model, scans over 350,000 unique bets a year to give you a best bet recommendation for every game across all major sports and the reason why you should make the bet. From spreads to over-unders, player prop bets, they got all the information. And if you want to do the research yourself, they've got the sharp data, the line movement, the team summaries, lineup and injury breaking news, even the leaderboards to track your success. So go to the App Store or Google Play Store now to download BetQL, or you can try try.betql.co/ITB to get started now. Just enter the promo code ITB at payment checkout for 25% off their subscription offerings. Check out their sportsbook offers page if you live in one of the eligible states to claim free offers upon signing up at one of the many sportsbooks listed. So don't miss out on the chance to beat your sportsbook this fall season with BetQL. All right, coordinators. We'll start with Shane Steichen, Adam. He was asked this week about Jalen Hurts being sub 60% completion in 3 straight weeks. And, we've talked about his ball placement. That was a real issue against the Raiders. And in general, his accuracy has not been great. And by the way, I don't know if you picked it up. The TV kind of mentioned Devontae Smith at one point and said he was dropping passes. And I thought that was unfair. I thought that the throws to Devontae, there was one he dropped, but there were about 3 that were not good. At least 2 and maybe 3.
2 in the first half within the first 3 drives. The passes were behind him. One might have been a touchdown. We'll get it. Well, I don't want to give it away the answer to the test date. We'll break that down from our tape study. I had someone go over it with me who knows the quarterback play very, very well, and explained to me how one would have been a touchdown,
Wow.
potentially.
Mm-hmm.
But we'll get into that. But this is my problem with this answer from Steichen. It's like, dude, tell the truth. He talks about Zach Berman asked it because Zach's asked this question before about the accuracy, right?
Right.
You design the play well. What he should have said is, he said that's our job as coach to put him in those situations, give him easy completion. So we're looking at this week to get it up. No, you're designing it well. You should say, listen, we're going to continue to work with Jalen in practice to make sure his mechanics are better, that he throws it more accurately. That's what you say.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that I just don't understand that answer. I don't go to press conferences anymore, but it's been years. But had I been in it, I would have asked to ask a follow up because I want to put this guy on. I want to put the heat on this coach.
Right.
The accuracy is an issue.
Right.
I know we outlined this offense 6 months ago. It's a old school West Coast theme. Forget the terminology is irrelevant. It's about what's the offense. It's timing. Get it out quickly. Get into the pass target's hands accurately. With 1, 2, 3 out, and he's got that part, but he's not throwing it accurately, and that's you could be. You show it to him, and I would like to know what is Hurts struggling with to get it accurate, and that to me is what I'd like to know. Zach's asking a great question. I just wish we could have had a better answer from the coach.
Yeah, the one positive I took away. Well, we'll talk about it more when we get into the actual individual. But I agree with you. That was a kind of his answers lately are just like, let me get through this question without incriminating me, my staff, my players.
But you don't have to.
I know you don't have to. It is true.
You can give a generic answer. Just say, listen, we're going to continue to work on his accuracy.
Right.
You could what you actually can do is like, hey guys, if you're watching the all 22, you could see some of the things that we need to clean up. That's all.
Yeah, no doubt about it.
Not hard.
So Jonathan Gannon, as I wrote on the story,
you got roasted by the way.
Yeah, I mean, there were some Olympic level verbal gymnastics that went on with the answers to his questions, to the point where once he started talking and then once he finished answering the question, you're like, wait a minute, you just said the opposite thing of what you started off saying. He and Nick Sirianni tend to do that. They explain so much that by the time they get to the end of the answer, they wind up contradicting themselves from the beginning of their answer. But first he was asked about the Fletcher Cox comments and the nature of it. And I find it a little weird. Like, I get that these guys are players, coaches. You can totally see it. They're trying to be players, coaches. That's the way coaches are these days. Fine with that. Numbers on the hats, wearing the T-shirts and everything. And he said he understood Fletcher's point, and it kind of comes from Fletch being an unselfish player who has a lot of passion for winning and losing, and that everybody's frustrated. So it's up to him, he said, to kind of collaborate with him on what they can do to get him to play better and be in the best position. And my takeaway from that is this is not the first time Fletcher Cox has said this. So if that conversation didn't happen the first time he said it, why am I to believe it's going to happen now? If you're playing a lot of the same, we talk about these guys who are playing in certain positions that don't seem suited to their strengths.
Yeah.
Doing that for 7 weeks, why would your players believe you're really going to switch it up now?
I mean, Dave Zingaro asked the question. Tim McManus asked the question. We'll get to your question, which is his answer is interesting.
Right.
He's trying to be diplomatic. He's like, hey, I got to do a better job with him. He's talking about how they go back and forth and talk. He's got some very good ideas, and other players have ideas, and it's up to the coaches to get done and execute those things. That's fine. It's all lip service until you do it.
Yeah.
They have a read and react scheme. Okay, that's what we were told 6 months ago. It's exactly what they're reading, what they run on with their D line front. We didn't know about the 4-eye stuff, though they played it in training camp. We pointed it out because we were told this at the tape. Clearly show they're playing the D lineman on a 4-eye technique, which you're really not rushing the passer. You're going inside, and it does not fit Josh Sweat at all. I mean, I've said it for 3 or 4 weeks now about Josh, but he's not being used correctly. You can't make drastic changes. I get that, but against Carolina, there were some things done to help these guys, and I don't know since then if they're doing it. He may have a different answer, Gannon, but the fact of the matter is it's not working. It's never going to work doing this, and you don't have an offseason to completely revamp this or junk a lot of this. So you got to help these guys. I'm telling you, if this happens again, they have an inferior opponent that plays very competitively. I'm telling you, if they don't bring it, now Detroit's got a good offensive line. They're very talented. They just don't have anything at receiver, good at running back. But if you don't help these guys are prideful. It's right. Josh Sweat doesn't talk to the media, but Fletcher Cox sure does because he's a captain and a guy that's been here since 2012. This could get a little ugly here if Gannon doesn't clean this up here and get these guys going.
Yeah. And then, Jeff McLean started, and I followed up with some questions on the communication element of this. You're playing a style of defense, right? And it's the front office's job to know what your defense is going to do and what it needs. And he was asked, do you have the right players doing what you want to do? And he was very, very assertive. I'm not going to, some of these quotes are really long, so I'm not going to go read them. But he said, yeah, my voice was heard. He said he talked about with free agency in the draft being a collective thing, that his voice was heard, that the skill set he needed. He even said, this is the skill set from left corner to right D end to Mike linebacker. This is who we can play with. And he gave comps, right? For like, we need a player like this. We need a player like that. And then he said, it's been a good collective process of what we're trying to do and who we need to play in those roles. And then obviously follow-up questions. Well, is Josh Sweat really a good fit for a 4-eye? And is Ryan Kerrigan the type, a good fit for a hand in the dirt when he's been in a pass rushing technique? And that's where you started to see the kind of verbal wordplay that makes you wonder if he's.
It was interesting.
Knows, I mean, and I'm going to read this part of the quote where he says, he says there are times when they are probably they're not ideally suited for that spot, but we try to within who's playing. We try to make it where we're putting those guys in position for the most part to get into the skill set that they're most comfortable with. So let's just stop right there. You're saying that they're playing out of position, but you're trying to do that, but cater to what they're doing, their skill set to success while acknowledging you're playing them out of position. That doesn't make sense. All right. Then he goes on to say, sometimes you've got safeties who want to play in the deep, but you have to ask them to play in the box. You've got corners who want to play man, but you have to ask them to play zone. Fine. But what my retort to that would be, that's a little bit different. When you're a corner, when you're a safety, you're usually cross-trained to play all those positions your entire career. There's no scheme that's 100% man, no scheme what's 100% zone. When you're a safety, even if you're a free safety, sometimes you got to get into the box. To ask guys like Kerrigan and Sweat and to your point, Cox, on read and react to do things that are fundamentally different than they've ever done before, which you just acknowledged that you're asking them to do, but then say you expect to play winning football with them, to me makes no sense. And that is the root of a lot of the issues here. And that was the acknowledgement that we were looking for, that we got, that you've got guys not playing positions. And as he doubled down, he said, we expect to play winning football with these players. Now, Adam, if I gave you a 65 Pinto and said, go beat the Ferrari in the race right there on the highway, and you tell me, I will do it, Geoff, I'm going to be like, you're an idiot. You know what I'm saying? Come on. Come on. You're admitting you've got players not playing in their comfortability, but you expect to win that way.
He needs to do a better job with the personnel he's been given. You got to let Josh Sweat. It's got length. He's not wide. He's long. He moves. I mean, we're in training camp, and I didn't think Josh. I still question whether he's good at standing up. But we saw so much standing up and so much unique stuff in training camp. We've seen so little of this in the regular season. I just throw my hands up. I'm like, I don't know what this guy's doing.
Yeah. Adam, the technique that he's playing a lot of is the same technique, very similar to what he played at Florida State. And everybody kind of acknowledged that his career at Florida State was sort of underwhelming. He was only a 4th-round pick.
Plus his knee was bad.
Plus his knee was bad, but his numbers weren't great either. He was playing a position that really wasn't suited to his strengths. Remember, the whole thing is Jim Schwartz, if anybody's going to do it, it's going to be this guy, because what Josh Sweat has fits perfectly for running at the quarterback from the
Oh,
edges.
yeah.
This is not rocket science. We're just speaking with what was out there. Anybody could have read a draft magazine and read that.
Yeah.
So why would Howie Roseman, I keep thinking, like, why would you give this guy a pretty lucrative contract extension if you knew he was going to be playing out of position like this? But I'm now wondering, did Gannon just say, hey, I can win with these guys, and they didn't know?
Well, I would think he would know that if Josh Sweat as a D coordinator is probably going to get an extension. But here's the question.
No, I'm saying did Howie realize that Sweat was going to play this much of a 4-eye technique?
Oh, the 4-eye, yeah. Because when we first mentioned the 4-eye and Sweat and Cox playing at 4-5, it was like around. I think it might have been after the Niners game. We'd asked some questions to some people around the league who'd watched the Eagles tape.
Right.
And one guy said, "Oh, they're playing Sweat and Cox at 4-eye. This is not going to be good for these guys in terms of production." Now we didn't think it would be this bad. I mean, this is a flash play here or there. No, obviously Hargrave's been tremendous, but even his production is down in terms of pressures lately. So I just feel like Gannon's going to have to take a hard look at himself and go, okay, these guys aren't getting it done. They're our best players. What do I need to do to get these guys to get to the quarterback? Because the other part about we'll get into the tape study about 5 minutes from now or so. But the fact of the matter is they're playing these corners, safeties so back. They did a little bit more man coverage in this game, but not much. They're just giving up so much room. If this D line does not get to them, it's over. It's over. And this is the exact opposite of what we were told. We were told because the line would get to the quarterback so well, and they were gonna play a lot of match cover, a pattern match, which I think one of the defensive players talked about it in the last couple of weeks.
Oh, Gannon even mentioned it. That's what they want to do. Yeah,
they want to play pattern matches. What we were told when they came in here. Well, you can only do it if you get pressure. You can't do it if you don't get pressure. Gannon's got to understand this. Figure out a way to get these guys getting off the football. It's just not working right now.
And as I mentioned, where does the majority of your pressures come from? What down?
Third.
Yeah. How often did the Raiders face a third down against the Eagles? Like 3 times, in the first half. 3 times. Most of them were twice on the first drive, and then I think only one more the entire half.
What was that stat you had? Like over 30 some odd plays in the third down.
Yeah, there was a span of about 36 straight plays the Raiders ran, or 36 plays that the Raiders ran from the first to the third quarter, and they only encountered third down on 2 of those plays. And then they converted one of them, a 3rd and 6 to Renfro. So it was like it was just so easy, so non-competitive.
Pitch and catch. Wait till folks, if you were able to get the NFL package on NFL.com. The Game Pass. I wanted to see it just based on what we had heard and what we saw on TV, what it really looked like. It's funny because even when they played man, they didn't really press. Like the guy was up there, but they didn't use it. They didn't use a chuck, the 5-yard chuck. They didn't use they didn't slow the guy down because he got off the ball. And you'll see Brian Edwards, like they got it. We'll talk. I don't want to give it away, but there's some stuff that they got to really correct.
Right.
It's too easy. You just nailed it. It's easy release, man. You gotta try. Why do you make it so easy on the quarterback? It's not like this is Carr's 8th year, man. He's gonna kill you with this stuff.
I know,
and he did.
I know. Honestly, Derek Carr looked like Joe Montana out there. There's 2 things, Adam, that I felt like I was particularly inquisitive about in August, and I wish I was a little more bullish on it in retrospect. One was. I remember saying that I felt like it's not just going to be a real easy adjustment from an entirely new defensive line scheme. I brought up the Giants who had under Spagnuolo, and they really struggled early before turning it around.
I thought about that on Tuesday or Wednesday or Tuesday. I was thinking about it. I was thinking about how they actually there was a sort of a revolt against Spags, and they were doing some things. It was part of the NASCAR package, which in retrospect every team has used for decades.
Right,
but there are a lot of things Spags did. Zone drops, also some stuff they were not comfortable with, but then they got it the second half, and obviously that they led to a Super Bowl. But so what were your thoughts on that? Like you didn't see?
I just thought that they were going to struggle. I just thought it was not reasonable to expect guys who have been rushing up the field under Jim Schwartz for years and years to just all of a sudden be good at read and react. And then I secondarily said a couple of times, more than a couple of times, and even more so during the preseason, that I thought run defense was going to be an issue because for a while, Jim Schwartz compensated for his one gap get up the field defense by bringing a safety in the box to help out in run coverage. And we knew Jonathan Gannon was going to play a lot more two deep. So if you just do the math, if you take one person out of the box that you're used to, well, how are you going to stop the run better when we already knew they did not have great pedigree linebackers? And then when they faced the Steelers and the Patriots in the preseason, I kept hammering down a point that it was very odd to me that both of those teams ran more running plays than the Eagles ran total plays in each game. All right. They ran the ball more than the Eagles actually had total plays. And I said, I know it's preseason and I know you can't make too much about it, but the guys who are on the field, they're going to play. Like some of these guys are starters and backups. And just overall in the scheme, when a team can just take aim at the center of your defense like that with a running game over and over and over, and then you see it happen more than once, you saw it happen twice, and even the Jets ran the ball pretty well on them in the third game. That was a concern for how they would be hold up against the run in the season. And I wish I was even more bullish on it back then, but you always worry about preseason being a little bit of a facade, like maybe he's not really going to run that type of scheme. So, but no, he really is, and they really struggle. Again, Josh Jacobs was not having a very good year. He was not. And Kenyon Drake is just a guy, to be honest with you. And those guys look like, again, they look like, thunder and lightning.
Well, he's explosive. Right. Drake for big guys.
Explosive, like, to me, he's explosive on the edges and catching the ball. I mean, he's not a run up the gut and just bowl you over. Yeah. But he had 3 runs up the middle of more than 8 yards.
Bad. I know. Bad. It was bad. It was we're all throwing our hands up. Everyone watching has to be, because they're all Eagle fans here. And I know I had some Raider fans check in with me who I've known through Twitter over the years, and they were saying some stuff. They listen to our show. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Because they want to learn more about the Eagles. But this was an abomination defensively. This is just 30 straight points. You mentioned in passing earlier, there were some points where they're non-competitive. I mean, Carr had the best game of his career statistically in terms of accuracy. They keep this is the other problem that Gannon doesn't understand is when you do no pre-snap disguise, when they get what they think it's rare if you talk to coaches that when they watch a team, it's rare that you get exactly what you expect. Like, okay, the Eagles got Gus Bradley's cover 3, but within that, there's certain things you can do to slow the offense up.
Yep.
It's like Gannon does exactly what he does every game. He doesn't change anything up. Oh, yeah, he dropped his safety in the box. Okay, great. A little bit here and there. Didn't work very well.
No,
we'll get into that.
Not. Yeah, we'll get into that too. All right. Download the DraftKings Sportsbook app now. Use promo code ITB. Bet just $5 on any NBA team to win its game, and you win $200 in free bets. That's if that team wins, you win with promo code ITB this week at DraftKings Sportsbook, an authorized sports betting partner of the NBA. Why don't we start off our tape review on offense, because that was so wonderful. Let's the first drive. I'll tell you what I'll let you go first. I want to tell you, I want to hear what sources had to say about how the Eagles were able to move the ball that drive. Because
it was a little different than I expected, because I'm watching TV because I wasn't charting it. It seemed like they were all under center. They weren't. They mix it up center and in shotgun. 5 runs, 3 passes. Their offensive line got off. They really, as we told you in our Friday show, that the Eagles would have an advantage if they came out running, because the Raiders' middle interior of their defensive line is not stout. I mean, they have some size, but they're older. They're generally older players. You could definitely win against. The only time they really went to tight ends was in the first series, a little bit on the second. They got off, man, and Sanders, before he got hurt, he had a run. If you could watch on the coaching tape, I was told this to watch it. He made this beautiful move. The guy broke free. I didn't see the number, but the guy broke free. Unblocked defender went right at him. He made him miss. He got 5 yards on it, which should have been like a 2 or 3 yard loss. Again, they mixed shotgun and under center. Well, really well schemed. And we'd said on our last Friday show. We said on our pregame show. In fact, a couple weeks ago, we asked Devon and Brian Baldinger. And I asked him, I said, hey, guys, are you able to run shotgun and under center in the same game? They both said yes. And by golly, that's what they did. And I don't know what happened. So Sanders gets hurt. What is there, some rule? You can't do it anymore. It's over. You can't do it anymore. No. Absolutely. You could still change them. They weren't doing it. They did a little bit on the second drive. They did a little bit of shock of under center. Then they punted on that. They weren't behind by a lot then. I just don't understand.
Well, no, they did. Okay, so they ran a little bit on the second drive, right?
But they had him under center a little bit on the. No, but I say they had Hurts under center a little bit on the second drive. They did.
Yeah, they did. But after that, they really did not get the ball back again until they were down big. Because the one time they got the ball back, Gainwell fumbled 2 plays into the drive, and then they scored a touchdown, and then they scored a field goal, and then the onside kick they weren't able to get. So the Vegas had the ball right back again to start the second half. They scored a touchdown. So by the time they got the ball back again for a sustainable drive, they were down 21-7 or no
21-7 at halftime.
Yeah.
No, 17-7. I'm sorry. 17-7.
Right. But then they scored on the first possession of the half. So it was 24-7 before they really had an opportunity. Right. So that does take you a little bit out of the run game. Maybe not you don't have to abandon it.
They had it enough. I mean, they didn't get ball controlled until the third quarter. It was 17-13 first half time possession. Now, yes, over time, the game will fumble. I still don't think that was a fumble, but
it was hard. It was hard.
Yeah.
I think there just wasn't enough evidence.
Right. But, overall, talk about missed opportunity, man. Hurts, we alluded to this earlier, so I'll just give you one note here. On the first 2 drives, 2 throws, same exact route. It's just amazing on both. One in the first quarter, one in the second quarter. 2 crossers. Both behind Smith, and it was well schemed. You can't. And here's a great thing: he identified it, he saw it, throw it in front of him. Why are you throwing it behind him? No one can answer this. Only he can. Just a bad throw. These are 2 bad. There's no excuse. I don't care. People say, "Oh, Smith should have caught it." No, don't make him slow up, man. This is bad football. It's not acceptable.
These are the type of throws, and it's like you constantly hear these strange. Well, you can't blame him because the play calling is terrible and the coach. No, these are throws that it has nothing to do with play calling and nothing to do with the coach. The receiver's open, throw it to him, hit him in the numbers, please. That's it. There's no exterior context to add to this argument to try to make him better or worse than he is. It
can't be defended.
Throw you got to make. Yeah, that's it.
We're truth tellers here. We're not bashing anybody. We're telling you this is what the tape looked like. We run stuff through NFL people who watch Eagles tape or anyone if we can who've seen an Eagles tape, generally advanced people, and they say this is what Philly's tape looked like.
Right.
And everyone I talked to saw the same thing. And the good thing is, it was a 3-step drop. He got it out quickly, but he threw it behind. It's like, dude, you throw with timing. It's in front of the pass target, not behind him. Anyway.
Right. I'll also give you one observation that I think is a little discouraging about the first drive as it pertains to sustainability. It was a great first drive. They ran the ball. They went under center. They showed a lot of 2 tight end formations, 12 personnel. And then honestly, it was almost like faux 13 personnel because they would put J.J. Arcega-Whiteside out there and bunch him in tight and use him as a third blocker because he's a big wide receiver. So that's great. And it worked. You can't do that all game long. So that can be something that you can script up to get your quarterback nice and your offense nice in a rhythm, but you're not going to run that all game long and have success. You're just not. I mean, the defense is going to adjust. They're going to bring out big personnel. They're going to dare you to do it again, and they're going to defend it. Like you eventually have to then run a variation of plays, sometimes 11, sometimes 12, sometimes spread, sometimes under center. So
they won.
I don't know how sustainable it would have been if they had tried to do that.
Well, they junked it. They junked in the second quarter on. They just felt that Sirianni, he just as a rookie play caller, he feels like the tempo's got to pick up in 11. They went almost exclusively 11 after the first quarter. Smith, Rager, and Watkins played a ton of snaps. Now, obviously, in the second half, they had to because they were behind. They certainly weren't going to run a lot. But the game was not out of hand in the first half. And their first drive was so beautifully executed, designed and executed by Hurts, and the runs were great. And Sanders looked great before he got hurt. It's just like after Sanders got hurt, and then the fumble by Gainwell, it's like they kind of punted. They're like, all right, we got to throw it all the time.
Yeah.
Hell with keeping the quarterback under center. You still could do it if you're down by 10. I don't know what rule out there says you can't do it, but this coach who's swimming upstream with play calling and design is this is what he believes.
So what did you find out about the offensive line? I thought it was not one of their better games, and I was
No, it
surprised
wasn't.
by it.
Well, the first drive was terrific. They blocked the heck out of it.
Yeah. Well, but again, you're running the ball and giving guesswork to the defense there.
They gave up too many pressures. My notes here. OL gave too many pressures up in the second, third quarters. When Dillard came in for Lane Johnson, well, I guess they switched my lot to the left. Right. Dillard immediately gave up a second of pressure. You talked about this Friday. We also talked about it on Sunday on a pregame show. They could struggle with speed rushers, and boy, did they struggle with Yannick Ngakoue and Crosby. Man, they brought it.
That was of all the defenses they played this year, those edge rushers caused them the most problems, and it's not even close. And they probably haven't faced great edge rushers. Certainly, Atlanta doesn't have very good pass rushers. And then, Dallas was hurt on the defensive line when they played them. Carolina had good ones. And those guys, did not, for whatever reason, the offensive line did a good job against Burns and against who's the other guy? Reddick. But
Reddick, yep.
They got a few, but did a good job. This time they were overmatched. And I don't know if that speaks to how good Crosby and Ngakoue are becoming, because they're really becoming a good duo there for the Raiders, or if it's just the injuries to Mailata and then the position switching and obviously Lane a little rust,
which could be mental gymnastics. Yeah,
so it could be that. I don't know, but it also could be the fact that they're predictable on offense. Like you said, after the first two drives, you knew that they were going to go back to doing their old stuff, and they could tee off on the Raiders could tee off on the Eagles. Right.
So what happened was there was some oversetting by the linemen.
Yes, good point. I noticed that. That is a great point.
This is what I was told. And then, though it didn't show up with, the tape is all, the numbers don't mean anything. The stats, it's what the tape shows.
Right.
They made Hurts get rid of the football before he wanted sometimes, and plus sometimes he doesn't have the sense of where to move. And this is an extreme example, but Tom Brady, there's a phrase that coaches use. He feels it. He doesn't see it. He just knows where to move. He doesn't need to see the rush. He feels it.
Right.
He knows at 1.5, he's got to move.
Right.
And Hurts doesn't always feel it because he just, the hope is the more he plays, he'll start feeling it, not seeing it. Mm-hmm. He's seeing it, not feeling it. That's the best way to say it.
Yep.
And Crosby didn't have a sack, but he got a credit with quarterback Harry. He was very impactful. And Ngakoue, as good as his stats were with the 2 tackles for loss, sacks, and Harry's, he was way more impactful with quarterback pressures.
Mm-hmm.
And you're right; they really did struggle this game occasionally with the speed, and that's and the other thing is, like, they did a couple. This is what bothered me. Someone pointed me out, and I saw it where it might have been Gainwell was there. What's called a nudge technique, where you use your shoulder. I think it was Gainwell,
right? Like
where he helped attack. I'm sorry,
like a chip.
Right. But they used the shoulder. A real quick one, and then go out in your route, and and the guy still beat it. It was bad. It was real bad. They beat it so fast. I was like, all right, this is not the first time we've seen them this happen. This bad. So they struggle with the speed. Absolutely.
Yeah, the oversetting. I'm glad your sources brought that up, because there was a few times I noticed that. And then what we mean by oversetting is that the tackle drops back so far before getting a punch on that he's only about a step away from the quarterback at that point. Remember, he's setting at a 45-degree angle, so he's setting toward the quarterback a lot. And there were times where by the time the defensive end got his arms into the tackle, you're basically driving the tackle right into the quarterback and making the pressure. It's almost like the tackle creates the pressure by being so close to the quarterback. And I saw that on a couple of occasions.
It happened.
So that's fixable, but sometimes you do it because you're a little intimidated by the rusher and you feel like you have to take extra steps to get extra cushion in front of you. So
let me add this.
That hurt them.
Yes, it did hurt them, no doubt. Let me add this on the 2 really bad Hurts throws to Smith.
Mm-hmm.
The windows were clear. He made the right read. This is what one person who knows quarterback position really well said to me. He said that the only guy he would have to beat, Smith, the play would have been for 20 yards if he caught it, if he didn't have to slow down. Morig, I think he's 25. However, he's at Morig, the second rounder. He was the deep safety. Smith on an angle, if he would have been going, he actually could have scored because Morig would have had to come up.
Right.
He could have made him miss by going on an angle.
I think that was the slant off an RPO is what you're talking about. Yeah.
I just know that this guy was emphatic. This probably would have been a touchdown based on route formation. I mean, it just – and it must drive coaches crazy because I'm sure it drove Hurts crazy because he sees it. He reads it correctly.
Yep.
You gotta throw it to the passer. I've been talking about this now and Wentz was so bad with it last year. His mechanics were completely off. So bad. Now he's playing great football.
I know. It's so funny. I saw Wentz throw either a check down. He threw a check down against the Niners the other night, and I'm like, a check down.
Where did
that come from?
Yeah, right. But overall, look, all you can do as a coach is point it out. Hurts sees it. He knows he's got to do it. I'm sure they're telling him the throw's here, not there. You never want to make a pass target explode, especially with Smith, who's explosive. One other thing, they used the edges for the throws to Goddard, not enough over the middle. I didn't get enough information to see why. Because I think later on, because now that Ertz is gone, and you'll see it, the Lions safeties are actually decent. The linebackers are average. There are going to be some plays for Goddard in this game against Detroit. He's a seam guy. They got to get him down the seam, and Hurts. That to me is the thing that's got to change here. And another thing with Goddard, he should never get less than eight pass targets a game. This guy is a beast. That first catch was phenomenal with coverage on him. He only got 5 targets,
yeah. Well, wash, rinse, repeat, bro. We've been saying that week after week after week.
I know. It's just these guys got – I mean, Smith is getting heavily targeted, which he should. I get it. They were behind, so Gainwell got it. But Goddard is an absolute beast. He's got to get the ball more.
All right, that'll wrap up the offense. Let's get into the defense first. Let's remind everybody to check out our friends at PHLSportsNation.com, enhancing the fans' experience with their coverage of Philadelphia sports teams for the fan, by the fan. That's their motto. Check them out at PHLSportsNation.com or on Twitter at PHLSportsNation. And we'll pause real quick for a word from our great sponsors, including our friends at Sky Motor Cars. And if you head on into Sky Motor Cars out there in Westchester, PA, make sure you send them or tell them that Adam and Geoff sent you, and maybe you'll get one of these cool Sky Motor Cars jackets that Adam's wearing right now.
Pullover, it's awesome.
Watching on YouTube, yeah. Oh, it's velour, is it? Huh?
No. It's a large because it's not. I don't wear my fat clothes anymore. I'm still a little fat. No, I wear a large, and Brett Shoulder told me it would fit you if you lose the weight. This is like a year or so ago, and it fits so good. It's a Nike pullover, man. They should. If Brett's watching, man, you should throw this in. I love it. It's one of my favorite pullovers, man. It fits so well.
Looks good. Is it made of velvet?
No.
What is this?
No,
velvet?
but very good. The logo stitched. It's really nice.
Gotcha. All right, let's talk about the defense. Unfortunately, where do you want to start?
I mean,
let me say this.
Do whatever you want.
We did kill Gannon, and deservedly so, for the first part of the show. If I were to do a little list of all the missed tackles, poor angles, correct depth taking in zone drops, and just overall bad or lack of carrying out responsibilities by individual players, the list would look like a kid's Christmas list. I mean, you can kill this guy all you want, and it's fair, but to act as if some of these guys are playing well or they're every time they're out there, they're in a position not to succeed is not true at all. In fact, the biggest adjustment I saw, and we talked about it, was he did play more safety in the box in this game. Now you can argue about whether it's too late or whether he's close, but he switched it up. He showed more cover one. That is what this team played mostly, cover 1, cover 3 last year, and yet they still cannot stop the run. And you got linebackers who just can't stop the run. I don't know what else to say. They're there. Eric Wilson is there, and he gets either trucked or he dives at somebody's ankles, or Davion Taylor just has no idea what he's doing in zone defense. It's rough, man.
The one thing that's noticeable is the linebackers are still 5 to 7 yards on a line of scrimmage. When they're 7 yards, the problem is the running back's got that head of steam already,
Yes.
He's going to truck the linebacker. And remember now, Josh Jacobs is 220 to 225, maybe heavier than that.
Mm-hmm.
Drake is 215-ish, was heavier early in his career, but I don't think he's quite as big. I think he's about 215.
All right.
And when you get the guy, and he's a pretty athletic kid. If when these guys get ahead of steam, it's hard.
It is.
It's hard, and it's hard to wrap. So, and we alluded to this on our pregame show that we were hearing that they were going to have sort of a lineup change or a rotation at linebacker again, and we would, as we would learn, it would be Singleton who didn't start. But the comical thing is, he still played the most amount of snaps by one, but they lowered his snap total for I don't know why, but TJ Edwards played more rundowns because the run defense has been so bad. Okay, he made some plays against the run, but
right.
I don't know, man. 7 linebackers. This can't. It's like
you can't. You got to stop. Stop playing 5 and 6 linebackers, thinking that one of these guys is gonna. You can't do it. Nobody plays 5 or 6 linebackers. Nobody. No one.
By the way, I wonder if Gannon said to Roseman, "Hey, listen, I like some of these guys. Let's have an in-season tryout." I'm half joking, but as you were just saying,
that, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I can kind of see him saying, "I'm going to rotate a little bit early on to figure him out."
Trying to figure out who the best guys are because he clearly didn't get it done in training camp. Other than he knew Singleton was going to play the most of all of them because he's by far the best overall linebacker.
Right.
But right now they don't have any. None of them play at a high level. It's just like you said. Why don't you just pick your best 3 to 4? Just go with it.
Yep.
But
go with it. And if you're going to pick your 3 or 4, here's what I would do. Don't pretend to be a genius. I'm just giving you what I would do. All right. I would, when I want to be in that 5-2 look, you got 5 men up on the line, 2 linebackers, right? It's your base defense. It's really a 4-3, but they bring the strong side linebacker up. All right. Jannard Avery, fine. Put him on the line there. My 2 linebackers are going to be TJ Edwards and Alex Singleton. All right. Right now, I'm giving up yards because Davion Taylor just hasn't gotten it yet. And he shouldn't, by the way. It's a baptism by fire for him. And I'm losing yards because, when the opposing quarterback, and this happened, runs a play action and has no one open downfield and dumps it down to the running back across the middle for 3 yards, Eric Wilson comes up and makes it an 8-yard gain because he just completely whiffed on the tackle. The Eric Wilson experiment has not worked. Great guy, really smart. I enjoy listening to him, but he's not playing well, and he does not deserve to be on the field, in my opinion. I want guys who are trying hard, and I want guys who are at least going to make a tackle when they have the ability to. So I'm playing TJ Edwards because I think he gives the best run effort, and I'm giving Alex Singleton because I still think he's the best of what you've got here to make some plays. Now they're going to give up still a lot, but I'm just leaving it with those 3. Jannard Avery from when I'm in base, and then when I'm in nickel, TJ and Alex.
Well, guess what happened? Of the 5-man rotation, Wilson in this past game got the least amount of snaps. So on your point, you got your wish. But the thing I don't understand,
completely off the field altogether.
Well, we'll see. But the fact of the matter, and he's only had a 1-year deal, very, very low salary. But Singleton still played the most amount of snaps, but they did such a Singleton and Taylor and played the most amount of snaps. Taylor is only a nickel linebacker. I understand that most teams play mostly nickel anyway, but he's just too small and he's so raw.
Yes,
I love your idea, Singleton and Edwards. And Edwards is not the liability in the pass. What it is I actually want to put this note that someone gave me. Okay. Zone coverage is still give. Okay, here's the note. It was kind of what you're saying, but with a little bit more detail. Zone coverage is still giving up way too much room. On the drive to make it 14-7, first play from Philly zone 4, McLeod was playing way too deep. Edwards on an over route got an easy completion. Remember, this is at the Raiders' 4-yard line. You need to pin them deep. Why the hell are you giving up so much room? This is not 3rd and 20. They're acting like it was a 3rd down and like there's no way they'll get a first down. This is the first play.
Yeah, I don't get, and that's
what
coaching. You're telling your safety to line up that far downfield. Why? Henry Ruggs? That's what? Is it really why? Because of Henry Ruggs? I mean, you're going to sit there and get never see a 3rd down because you're so afraid of Henry Ruggs. And look, Henry Ruggs is fast. I get it, but every receiver's every week you're going to face a fast receiver.
And by the way,
take one guy out of the entire equation because of
yes.
it.
And and I get it. Another point is Carr, a lot of 3 and 5 step drops. You could see it from the coaching tape, how quickly he gets it out. Well, if he's going to do that, you got to disrupt the routes. It's another thing we have. Shame on me for not mentioning this enough.
Yep.
The Eagles rarely disrupt routes. Rarely. Okay. And another thing, and I asked someone this, I thought this would be the answer, but in zone, you absolutely can. You absolutely can have your corners play up in zone. You need to have them playing. They just don't. What are you doing, Gannon, to help your guys out? I understand they got to execute.
Mm-hmm.
You could help yourself out by giving the quarterback a little bit to think about. He didn't. Now, Hargrave got it. We should mention on the interception, Hargrave blew the play up. It was all on him. He blew the play up. Carr, as he did when he struggled against Chicago, he panicked. He got happy feet, and he just got rid of it. And Maddox got the pick.
Yep.
But there were so few plays where they also did.
Yeah.
What was he?
Through, by the way, Epps I thought was out of place on a lot of. And honestly, sometimes these guys are just the slightest bit out of. I give Carr credit; he really made some good throws. They did make it easy.
We only had 3 incompletions.
I know, but he did play well. I mean, the throw he threw the Moreau touchdown that tied the game. That wasn't bad defense. It was a great
Max is right there.
Throw. I mean, yeah, it was a good throw.
Although you don't want a 5'8" corner on a 6'5" tight end, but it was a tough catch though. Maddox is on him. Max is on him. I'll say that.
Yeah, no, he was on him. But I mean, you're always going to get that whenever Maddox is matched up against somebody in the slot who's taller than like a flex tight end like that. So, I mean, you're going to have that. So
I was just
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was just going to say I was very surprised that without their star tight end Waller, that they gave up. That it was so easy for Carr. I thought that now you don't have Waller to worry about in the intermediate area where they probably would get killed. Well, Moreau beat him in the intermediate area. He's not as explosive as Waller.
Right.
I couldn't believe it. I just could not believe that they made it so easy for Carr. Shame on Gannon. This is.
Well, can I bring up something that maybe you shouldn't have been surprised, right? Because didn't we see that against Tampa Bay, that their star tight end was out and the backup tight end who has done nothing for much of his career had a pretty good game? Right? Did we not see OJ Howard have a pretty good game against the Eagles? Right.
Yep.
Did we not see Dalton Schultz, who's actually a pretty good tight end, but did he not have a very good game against the Eagles?
Well, here's the thing: is Dalton Schultz not a speed guy. He's a good route runner. He's got good hands. He really did great filling for Blake Jarwin last year, and he's been better than Jarwin this year. But you're right, man. The tight ends are killing them.
The running backs and tight end, the middle of this defense is so vulnerable and so permitting that anybody can gash it now.
Yep. I'd love to know as you were just saying, I'd love to know the numbers in the middle of the field, what they're giving up. We had our friend Zane, who's our intern, had the stats. I want more stats on the intermediate throws, man, because this stuff is.
On that. I will.
Well, here's the thing. It's not like the whoever calls the plays for the opponent doesn't know this. They just keep, and Gannon does nothing to stop it.
Right. Now, who are the 2 best offensive players in the Lions?
Oh, Hawkinson's a stud, and DeAndre Swift,
the running back and the tight end, right? And the backup running back, better is one of the better backup tight ends. Good. Okay, so that just lets you know what you're in store for. Okay, you've got the red carpet treatment to a team that's begging for a win.
And old friend Big V at right guard, honoring that 2 years of 20 million. But folks, that's going to be competitive. I'm telling you, there are a lot of ex-Eagles. Deuce Staley, Dave Phipp. Anyone else? Any ex-Eagles on that staff?
What's on the staff? Not that I can think of right now.
Okay. But Big V's on that team, and would-be Eagle Aleem McNeil is a starting nose tackle for the Lions.
Ask Tom Donahoe about that.
Right, exactly. Folks, there's
Tom Donahoe doesn't look. Tom Donahoe looks like the winner of that one, doesn't he?
So far, well, Mel Williams gives some decent stats, but I'll leave it with this: the Lions probably have the worst overall group of corners in the league, but they play with a lot of energy and passion. And Aaron Glenn's doing the best he can with limited help.
Right.
But the Eagles better bring the energy, man, or they're going to lose in Detroit. I'm telling you, if they don't bring it, they're going to lose.
Well, we will see. We will. Wait, Justin Peele's not over there, is he? I forgot where Justin Peele
I
went.
forget where he is. Yeah, it's a good question. Oh,
Okay. Well, we'll cover that on the next podcast.
yep.
We will break down the entire Eagles-Lions game on Friday at 6 a.m. We'll have all the matches, the injury updates, the transactionals news that happens between now and
Maybe
then.
trade. Who knows?
And yeah, maybe. Oh man, I wanted to. We're already an hour and 10 minutes. I have a question. A transaction thing that I've been wondering about. I'm gonna save it for the next pod.
All right.
All
Cool.
right, we'll talk about it then. That's going to do it for this episode of Inside the Birds, the leading podcast in Eagles intel. Please check out the work from our producer, Hunter Brody. You can find it on YouTube. It's called Sports Talk with Broads, or his website, broadsmedia.com. And as always, we thank you for flying with us inside the bird.